אנחנו התחלנו את מצפן ב-62, אבל זה היה קטן, זה היה בערך 20 אנשים. אנחנו עזבנו את המפלגה הקומוניסטית והתחלנו את מצפן. וזה נהיה פופולרי אחרי 67, ואחרי 68, מאי 68 בפריז, אנחנו היינו מאוד אקטיביים. אנחנו היינו חברים של קון בנדיט, ואנחנו ככה, אז זה ביחד עבד, ועשינו את מצפן.
בין כמה אתה עכשיו?
61. רגע, 61? לא, 62.
62. איזה שנה אתה
31.
נולדת?
31.
31.
בגרמניה.
בגרמניה,
כן, ואחרי שהיטלר הגיע לשלטון, אמא שלי אמרה, אנחנו עוזבים את גרמניה.
כן.
אמא שלי פעם סיפרה לי, היא הלכה ברחוב, אני הייתי תינוק, אני הייתי בעגלה. והיא הלכה ברחוב בברלין, כבר היטלר הגיע לשלטון ב-33, זה היה 34. היא הלכה ברחוב עם עגלה, ופתאום בא מול הקצין של האס-אס. כן. גבוה כזה, כובע וכל הזה, והקצין של האס-אס עושה הייל היטלר. אתה יודע, עושה הייל היטלר. אמא שלי הסתכלה אחורנית לראות איפה יש שם בן אדם שהוא עושה לו הייל היטלר. אומרת, היא לא ראתה אף אחד. פתאום, הרחוב ריק, פתאום היא הסתכלה, היא ראתה, אני בעגלה, אני עשיתי הייל היטלר, אז הוא עשה לי בחזרה.
אתה עשית בתינוק?
אני לא ידעתי מה זה, ראיתי אנשים עושים ככה. אז היא אמרה, מה? הילד שלי עושה הייל היטלר. הילד שלי עושה הייל היטלר. אני נוסעת מפה. עכשיו, הוציאו הנאצים, דבר ראשון שהנאצים עשו, הוציאו חוקים. דבר ראשון, אסור ליהודים ללמד באוניברסיטאות. ואז כולם עזבו, כל הפיזיקאים וזה, ונסעו לאמריקה. ודבר שני, בבית ספר, ילדים יהודים צריכים לשבת על ספסל מיוחד. על ספסל מיוחד בבית ספר.
מה ספסל מיוחד? זה ספסל האחרון, או כותב משהו, סימן של דוד?
אני לא יודע, יכול להיות. אבל כל ילד יהודי צריך בבית ספר לשבת על ספסל מיוחד. אז אמא שלי אמרה, אני לא מוכנה. הילד שלי בבית ספר לא יישב על ספסל מיוחד.
טוב. אז עזב. אז ישר לפה או...
אמא שלי סיפרה לי עוד דבר, אחרי שהיטלר הגיע לשלטון, ככה, אמצע 33, אני הייתי במיטה, הייתי בן שנתיים, והיא חיפשה מוזיקה ברדיו. היא חיפשה מוזיקה. ובשבילי, ופתאום היא שומעת ברדיו מישהו צועק, אנחנו ניכנס לבתים של היהודים באמצע הלילה וניקח אותם לרחובות ונחתוך להם את האף ברחוב. אז היא חשבה שזה תיאטרון, היא חשבה שזה הצגה. אז היא רצתה לשמוע איפה זה מציג, מי משחק וככה. כשזה נגמר, אז אמרו לה, הרדיו אמר, אתם שמעתם את הנאום של הרמן גרינג בקונגרס של המפלגה הנאצית בנירנברג. אז אמא שלי אמרה, מה? זה רציני, זה לא הצגה, זה הנאצים? אני לא נשארת פה, אני נוסעת מפה. אמא שלי לא הבינה כלום בפוליטיקה, כלום. לא הבינה כלום בפוליטיקה. הכל אצלה היה אמוציונלי. אבא שלי בא מרוסיה, והוא הכיר את לנין, הכיר את טרוצקי, זאת אומרת, הוא ראה אותם, הוא היה ילד, אבל הוא ברבולוציה היה בן 17, והוא שמע את לנין, הוא אמר, עמדתי 10 מטר מלנין, עמדתי על יד טרוצקי, אני שמעתי אותם. אז אבא שלי תמיד היה מאוד אוהד את הבולשביקים, היה מרקסיסט וככה. אז אבא שלי אמר לאמא שלי, את לא מבינה כלום בפוליטיקה, פה לא יקרה שום דבר, הם מדברים, אבל זה רק דיבורים. ואמא שלי אמרה, אני לא רוצה להישאר פה. לא רוצה.
היא צודקת.
והיא צודקה. הוא לא. כל מי שחשב באופן לוגי לא צדק, ומי שחשב באופן אמוציונלי יצא שהוא צדק. ככה זה יצא. אז הם באו הנה פעם אחת. הם לא היו ציונים, היה לו אפי דיוויד לאמריקה. אבל אבא שלי אמר, אמריקה צריך לדרוך על אנשים אחרים. זה לא בשבילי. אני לא יכול לשחק בקפיטליזם האמריקאי. אני לא מתאים לזה. ואז הם באו הנה, ואמא שלי, לא היה עוד נמל חיפה, לא היה כלום, הם באו ליפו. ואמא שלי אמרה, הלכתי לשפת הים, ראיתי את החול הלבן הזה, ואת המים האלה, אמרתי, פה אני נשארת. לא עניין אותה כלום. רק החול היה נקי, יואיצ'י. החול היה לבן כמו שלג. היום כבר לא. החול היה לבן כמו שלג. הים היה כחול וצלול, שקוף לגמרי, טרנספרנטי, אני נשארת פה. ונשארו. אבא שלי אמר לי ב-48, לא ידעתי שיש פה פלסטינאים. לא ידעתי. ועכשיו אני רואה שפה יהיה מלחמות, 50 שנה, המון שנים. היה טעות. אבל כבר מאוחר מדי בשבילי לעשות לסול מקום אחר. אבל אבא שלי התחרט שהוא בא הנה. אמר, זה יותר, כל האנרגיה, כל המנטליות, הכל הולך לכיוון של המלחמות. במקום שיהיה משהו פרודוקטיבי, קריאטיבי, דברים כאלה. אז, אבל הוא אמר, אבל הוא זקן מדי בשביל לעזור.
עכשיו תגיד לי, למה אתה עזבת מהארץ הזה?
בשביל ללמוד, באוניברסיטה. אני רציתי לעשות, אני גמרתי, עשיתי BSc במתמטיקה פיזיקה בירושלים, ואחר כך רציתי לעשות את התיאוריות של איינשטיין. אבל לא לימדו את זה בירושלים. רציתי לעשות קוסמולוגיה. איך בנוי הקוסמוס.
כן.
וספייס טיים ודברים כאלה, ולא לימדו בירושלים. אז נסעתי ללונדון בשביל שנה אחת. לשנה אחת. ואני הייתי בקינגס קולג' בלונדון. היינו 10 אנשים בכיתה, ואז הפרופסור שלנו היה הרמן בונדי, ויחד איתי היה לא רק הוקינס, היה גם רוג'ר פנרוז. ורוג'ר פנרוז זה black hole theory. רוג'ר פנרוז זה black hole theory. אז אני ישבתי שם שנה, ואחר כך ראיתי שיש... זה לא... הפסיק לעניין אותי. הבנתי מה איינשטיין רצה, הפסיק לעניין אותי, ואז הפרופסור שלי אמר לי, בוא תלמד קומפיוטרס, כי כדאי לעשות את זה. אז הלכתי ללמוד קומפיוטרס. אבל כל פעם זה היה עוד שנה אחת, עוד שנה אחת, עוד שנה אחת. אחר כך היה 67 מלחמה. אז המון אנשים הזמינו אותי בשביל לדבר, להסביר מה זה קורה בפלסטינה, מה זה היהודים האלה שתמיד חשבנו שהם כל כך חלשים, פתאום מנצחים את כל הארצות הערביות בשבוע. מה? אז אני הייתי הולך ומסביר. ואז בארץ התרכזו מאוד, כי אני אמרתי דברים קריטיים. אמרתי, יש פלסטינאים, הם היו שם מקודם, מגיע להם שיהיה להם עצמאות. אז הישראלים לא אהבו את זה. אבל גולדה מאיר אמרה, אין דבר כזה פלסטינאים. יש ערבים, וקצת ערבים חיים בפלסטינה, אבל זה לא עושה אותם פלסטינאים. אבל זה היה, אז רצו לקחת לנו את הפספורטים, וזה... אז ראיתי, אם אני אגיד את זה פה, אף אחד לא ישים לב. אבל אם אני אומר את זה שמה, אז גם פה הם מתרכזים, אז נשארתי עוד שנה, עוד שנה, עוד שנה. אבל לא היה לי הרגשה שאני עזבתי או משהו כזה. חוץ מזה, יואיצ'י, אני מרגיש טוב בכל מקום.
כן.
אני עבדתי על אוניות, הגעתי לאפריקה, זה גם כן, זה מעניין, אחרי חצי שעה אני כבר יודע כמה מקבל פועל, איזה פרובלמות יש, מה הולך בבית ספר, מה הולך בממשלה, וזה כבר אני מתעניין בזה. זה נראה לי נורמלי. זה נראה לי נורמלי, לא? תראה, כמו שאתה באת הנה, זה לגיטימי. כן, אדם צריך להתעניין בכל מה שקורה לכל האנשים בעולם. זה לגיטימי. זה עושה אותך בן אדם. אחרת אתה מין כזה, אתה יודע, כמו תולעת בתוך התפוח. כל מה שהיא יודעת זה החור שלה בתוך התפוח. אפילו לא יודעת שיש תפוח, לא ראתה את התפוח מבחוץ, לא ראתה את העץ, לא ראתה את השמיים. אני לא רוצה להיות תולעת בתוך החור של התפוח. אתה מבין? שיט, מה יש לי? היסטריה. עצבני. תסתכל מה זה. חצי האוטומובילים במדינה סוברו. חצי. ראית כמה סוברו?
מה זה חצי אוטומוביל?
חצי אוטומובילים בישראל סוברו.
סוברו,
כל הזמן כל דבר סוברו. הנה עוד סוברו.
כן.
הכל סוברו. עכשיו...
זה בגלל ש...
זה אוטו טוב.
לא רק בגלל זה. זה בגלל הרב בויקוט. כן.
יכול להיות, אבל האנשים הפשוטים, אתה יודע, מי שקונה את האוטו הזה, הרבה פעמים אני עומד ככה, מישהו שואל אותי בחוץ, אתה מוכן למכור? הרבה פעמים. רק זה, המודל הזה, לאונה. זה אוטו טוב. אבל סוברו מוכר הכי הרבה אוטומובילים פה. עכשיו מיצובישי, בפעם הראשונה, מיצובישי מוכר יותר מסוברו. זה, גלנט, לנסר, זה לוקסוס. אבל זה אוטו בן 10 שנים. אני מבסוט.
תגידו שאתה חזרת פה לפני שנתיים? שנה?
ביוני 1990.
90.
בשביל האימא. אימא שלי בת 86,
כן.
וקשה לה לבד. היא גרה לבד בבית.
כן.
אז אני באתי לטפל בה, לעזור, לקנות במכולת, לקחת אותה כן? למספרה, לרופא, וככה, באתי לעזור לאימא. פשוט מאוד. אתה מבין? כל יריחו מלאה דגלים של PLO, כן? ו1,000 אנשים ברחוב, אלפים של אנשים ברחוב, והגנרל שהוא אחראי על יריחו הולך ברחוב עם הקצינים שלו ועם החיילים, וכל הערבים מחבקים אותה ומנשקים אותה. והגנרל הזה מסביב הולך בתוך כל הדגלים של ה-PLO, שעוד יום קודם הוא היה שולח את החיילים להרביץ לילדים ששמים את הדגלים האלה. אז שואלים אותו, תגיד לי, איך זה מרגיש בין כל הדגלים האלה? אז הוא אומר, כן, זה באמת קצת מוזר, אבל אף אחד לא ירה, שום דבר, היה אווירה. אבל הוא הרגיש, אתה מבין, לגמרי, כאילו שהוא חי בפלנטה אחרת. Frankly, to put it in one word, I would say the status of the Palestinian has changed from being an occupied territory into becoming a Bantustan. My view is that this kind of treaty is trying to make them into a Bantustan, like in South Africa. That means they will have their own government, but in fact they will not have an army, they will not have a foreign policy, and they will be totally dependent on Israel. This is the aim of the Israelis, the aim of Rabin and Peres. It's not treating them as equals. It's saying we could not defeat the Intifada, and therefore we go out and we let them be their own policemen. This is, but Israel moved out because of the Intifada. It was impossible to keep the whole Palestinian down. The Intifada was not a matter of the PLO or of the Popular Front or of the Democratic Front. The Intifada was really popular. All the Palestinian people were against the occupation and were doing something against the occupation. Every day there were hundreds of incidents of stone throwing or burning of tires and things like that, and the Israeli army could not help do anything about it. But for the first time, the Israelis recognize the Palestinians as a political entity. Before, Golda Meir said there is no such thing called Palestinians in 1972. Later they said, okay, there are some Palestinians, but they are refugees or they are terrorists. And finally, on the 13th of September, the Palestinians appeared like a state. Rabin had to shake the hand of Arafat on the White House, and Clinton is behind them. That means the Israelis finally recognized the Palestinians as a political entity, not only as refugees or terrorists, but a political entity. And this is a very great step forward. It's a very great step forward. They were saying, why are the Palestinians fighting against us? The Israelis said, only because we are Jews and because they are murderers. Nobody gave it a political interpretation. There was a political interpretation. 5% on the left gave it a political interpretation. But 95% of the population saw the Palestinians as murderers. They could not place the Palestinian struggle in a political context, so they placed it in a criminal context. So all the Palestinian activity for most Israelis for 27 years was 25 years was in a criminal context. And suddenly Rabin shakes the hand. You know how many people said, how can Rabin shake the hand which is dripping with blood? Why is the Arafat hand dripping with blood? The hand of Rabin are dripping with honey. I mean, Rabin was also a general and he sent soldiers to kill other people. But for the Palestinians, Arafat is something different because it was, they could not accept him as a political entity. And from the 13th of September, Israelis must accept the Palestinians as political entity. So it's a great step forward. It was a very big shock for 90% of the Israelis. A psychological shock, a very big and a positive development. Now they say, there is Hamas and there is Arafat and there is this, and they start to make distinctions according to political considerations. Before there were only Arabs, murderers, killers, etc. Now it's better, much better. But the plan itself is basically, if we cannot police them in Gaza, let them police themselves. But no independent state, no foreign policy, no army, nothing. Only let them have a ghetto, and they will be the bosses of the ghetto. This is what they want. But of course, everything can change. Everything can change. It can develop in a completely different way. It can develop to such an extent that there will be economic connections, and the Israelis will be willing to concede. For example, the port of Eilat. The port of Eilat is closed now. All the Japanese cars, Subaru, Toyota, everything comes to Eilat. From Japan goes to Eilat. And from Eilat it is taken on big lorries to Tel Aviv and Haifa. And the government stopped subsidizing the lorries. So the port of Eilat has no work. For 6 months the port of Eilat has no work. And now Aqaba, the Jordanian side, said, we are willing to use the port of Eilat because we have a lot of ships coming to Aqaba. Aqaba is the only port which Jordan has, and many ships have to wait because the port is too small. And we are willing to give the port of Eilat, all the ships that are waiting for Aqaba can now go to Eilat. It will be very good for us. And the people of Eilat suddenly said, yes, very good, yes. All the workers in Eilat who want the peace because they want the job. So it's possible that Eilat will work for Transjordan, you see? So it is possible that there will be so much economic togetherness that it will be impossible to discriminate against the Palestinians and so on. My personal view was the best thing would be if there is one country, and it doesn't matter if you're Jewish or if you're Arabic. But most people say, no, we must have a separate country for the Jews, a separate country for the Arabs. Okay, so let there be two. But there can be cooperation. And there will be cooperation. All the Israeli businessmen are already looking for opportunities to make money in the Palestinian side. They're already talking about cooperation. It's very possible that Israel and Lebanon will be the financial and commercial centers. Possible. Israel is very good in high tech and also in making connections, because you have Jews all over the world and they have friends everywhere, so you can make international connections and so on. I hear that Peres is now collecting money for Arafat in America. Peres is now telling Americans to give money to Arafat.
What's mean?
Arafat has no money. Yeah. Arafat supported Saddam Hussein in the Gulf War. And therefore Saudi Arabia and Kuwait stopped giving him money. Mm-hmm. And he has to pay. He has to pay people. He has a big organization. Yeah. You know, they were so bad, they were so bankrupt that they were selling the embassies in Spain and in France because they needed the money to pay salaries. They were selling the embassies. And somebody came to Shimon Peres and said, look, the PLO, if we don't save them, the PLO will disappear. They will not exist. They are so bad, they cannot pay salaries for the next month. Many of the people haven't got money. So if they disappear, Peres said, who will remain? The Hamas? The Hamas want an Islamic Republic in the whole of Palestine. With them we cannot talk. So Peres went to Rabin and said, look, we have to save the PLO. Because if we don't save them, there will be no partner to talk to. And that's why they made the agreement. Because they could not keep Gaza and the West Bank. There was all the time, every day, stones, Molotov cocktails, shooting, every day, hundreds of incidents. They could not keep it down. They realized the PLO is going to sink, to disappear. And if they don't save them, there will be nobody to talk to. So they went to Arafat. Arafat said, yes, I'm willing to do business, yes. You want to give me only Jericho and there? Okay, we start there. And this is the way it went. Everything is due to, it's continuing the war without the guns. It's continuing the war without the guns. But the Israelis have not suddenly, Rabin and Peres have not suddenly said, oh, we're very sorry, please. No. It's almost like continuing the war without the guns.
About this economic, I want to continue to ask. A lot of money will come to here, yes?
Possible.
Through World Bank, through other countries, yes.
Yeah.
Do you think they invest this money direct to Palestinians, or some economists said that who get benefit and who don't get benefit, it will be separate from now, yes. And the Palestinian camps doesn't get benefit maybe, and only some companies with international organizations.
No, I think there will be. I think the Palestinians will get a lot.
Yes.
First of all, there will be joint ventures. Like, for example, they want to build a canal from the Mediterranean to the Dead Sea, and from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea. They want
To make a canal?
Yes, they're talking about building a canal to produce electricity and also to produce a lot of water to irrigate. So I think the Palestinians will gain a lot. There will be a lot of investment also in the Palestinian sector by Arab states. Saudi Arabia is full of money. Also Kuwait, the Emirates, Bahrain, they have a lot of money and they will invest because the Palestinians are a very sophisticated, industrialized society. I think a lot of money will reach the Palestinians too, and Arab money will come also to the Palestinians. And there's also Palestinian money. Palestinians, you have a lot of very rich Palestinians in the United States and in England, and I think there will be also an improvement, a great improvement in the economic conditions of the Palestinians. There will be a lot of constructions, they will build a lot. The question is if they can build some kind of an industrial basis. It is possible that economically Palestine alone is unviable and there has to be kind of a union with Transjordan and with Syria. But Peres is already talking about a common market of the Middle East, in which Israel will play a role. But they're talking about common market of the Middle East. It is possible. It is possible.
This is Peres' idea or Rabin's idea?
Peres. Rabin
Peres.
on this matter Peres comes with the idea and Rabin says yes or Rabin says no. But Rabin is not a man of ideas. Peres is a man of ideas.
Peres have some dream to
Yes.
be
Yes, of a
center of
of a common Middle East common market, modern, technological, like Europe, common market of the Middle East. In the beginning, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, Israel, and later maybe also Syria, Egypt, Iraq, maybe. Most of the Soviet Jews who came here are disillusioned. The majority are disillusioned. But it's very difficult for them to go back and begin again. Some go. A lot commit suicide. A lot commit suicide.
Yes,
Yes.
here.
Most of the prostitutes today are Russian girls. Most of the prostitutes are Russian. Very difficult to go back. It is absolutely impossible for them to buy a flat. Ryuichi, a flat in Tel Aviv or in Beersheba, minimum $100,000. Minimum. No Soviet Jew has $100,000. They have $100, $1,000, and they cannot get jobs easily because they don't know the language. And the government is trying to give jobs to the specialists, the people who worked on the rockets, the doctors, the engineers. Even this is difficult. So what should say the ordinary people? Somebody was a teacher in Russia. What can he do here? There are too many teachers in this country and too many doctors. I think this country has one doctor on something like 100 people of the population. It's the highest number in the world. Doctors. So the Russian Jews are in a bad situation and they're looking for jobs. And the idea was that if Rabin and Peres will be in a government and they will make peace, there will be jobs. And this is true. This is true. There will be jobs. It will not happen in 1 month, but it will happen in 1 year or 2 years. There will be jobs. Because there will be a lot of construction and a lot of money will come here. There will be a lot of jobs and people will earn something. So it is true. Some of the Russian Jews voted. Maybe people think the majority of the Russian Jews, how many were there? 300,000. 300,000. That they voted for Labour and this helped Labour to come into power. The country is used to live with crisis. They go to America, they collect more money here, they collect more money there. But this country has always been living with crisis. When I went in 1964, there was an economic crisis, and there was a joke that in the airport they put a big sign. Everybody was leaving the country, and there was a big sign in the airport, "Will the last one leaving please put out the light?"
What's me?
Like you leave a room, you put out the light when nobody's in the room. So there was a joke that in the airport they put a big sign, "Will the last one leaving please put out the light?" And, and there was a whole campaign of jokes about the crisis. And the campaign was so many people made jokes about the crisis that the government sent the ministers to speak against the jokes. The government sent yes. The ministers had to say, don't speak about the joke, don't make so many jokes about the crisis, it's not good. But what happened? America gave more money, the Jews gave money, and they got out of the crisis. Every time there's another crisis. Take the settlers from different places and put them in one place. When this will happen, there will be war. The settlers said already, we will fight. So there is a possibility that there will be a confrontation with the settlers. There was an opinion poll in the Israeli press. Journalists went into the schools, high school, children aged 16, 17, 18, and asked them what they think about the massacre, because the teachers were supposed to speak against the massacre. So about 50 to 60% of the pupils supported the massacre. It was a big shock in the country. It was a big shock in the whole country. So the Minister of Education called a meeting of teachers from all over the country in a big hall in Jerusalem, Binyanei Ha'uma. And the Deputy Minister, Micha Goldman, number 2 Minister of Education, appeared in the meeting. And a large group and he spoke against the massacre. And a large group of teachers started to throw stones at him, and they threw flower pots at him, and he had to run away. So I would say, I think 50% of the Israeli population think the massacre is a terrible crime and must be punished, but there are another 50% who don't think so. Who think Arab killed Jews here, there, and somebody finally decided to do what had to be done and teach them a lesson. This is not a simple, not all the population is against it. Of course, all the people in the parliament are against it, yes. All the let's say, everybody who has a little bit of a humanist is against it. But the Likud was 15 years in power. Ryuichi, the Likud was 15 years in power, and they educated people on a religio, nationalistic ideology. And there are many people who are supporting the massacre. They say he did what had to be done. Unbelievable. It's a big shock. For many people in the country, it's a very big shock. High schools, for example, the Hebrew Gymnasium in Jerusalem. Then there was a school called Ort, which is a school where children learn skills, like to be an electronic technician, etc. A very good school in Jerusalem. And there, 20 of the students stood 1 minute silence in honor of the massacre of Goldstein. And later they appeared on television and they said, yes, we support him. And there was a big scandal. Everybody said, what? We have here children who support this massacre? But the children said, yes. Arabs killed Jews. Here was the government did nothing. Here was a martyr who decided to teach the Arabs a lesson. Yeah, unfortunately, you have... people don't know the exact numbers, but it looks as if in the schools the percentage is maybe 60%. It looks. And from the newspaper today, they are probably going to take the settlers from the different places in Hebron into one place, have them all in one place. And when this happens, which should be in 10 days, there will be a big confrontation, because the settlers will not accept to move 1 meter from where they live. And they will call friends from other places, and there will be a battle between the settlers and the army. But if the settlers shoot 1 Israeli soldier, they are finished. Because then the public opinion will tell the Israeli government, okay, this we will not allow. Take them all out by force. You know, there is a story that at the end of the days, the Messiah, the Redeemer, will come, and he will redeem all the people and resurrect the kingdom of God. Okay, now the Messiah, it's not part of the religion. It's folklore. It's not part of the religion, but it's folklore. And now the Messiah, it is said in the stories, will come riding on a white donkey. On a white donkey. So some of the religious who support the state of Israel say, Peres, Barak, Ben Gurion, they are the donkey. We are sitting on the donkey. They are the donkey. They are bringing the Messiah, but they don't understand that they are bringing the Messiah. And we will. So the religious camp is also divided between the Orthodox who say, no, we don't want to have anything to do with this state of blasphemers, and those who followed the Zionism and say the Zionists are only the white donkey, and we shall ride this donkey and we shall bring the redemption. But this is only 20%. The majority is not religious. The majority is not religious. And they are becoming gradually Israelis. And you know, these people don't hate the Arabs. They don't need enemies. They say, yes, the Palestinians have a case. The Zionist movement came to a country like Palestine, which was populated. The Palestinians lived here. It was a nation of peasants. They lived in many cities, in many villages. We took away the country. There is a conflict. We have to come to a compromise. They must get at least half the country, and we must compensate them. And it's possible. It's possible to solve the problem. But if you say, no, I'm the victim, or you are religious and you say, the whole country belongs to me, because in the Bible it says the whole country belongs to me, this is a recipe for conflict. And therefore you have conflict, because the Israeliness has not yet become the spirit of the majority, the self-image of the majority. That's it. You know, sometimes if your self-identity is based that you are a victim and nobody persecutes you, you have to invent persecutors so that you will know who you are. And you know, if somebody loves you, this is a disaster, because you don't have a secure identity. So if somebody loves you, you become part of the one who loves you. You melt away, you disappear. So you always need somebody who is against you, and then he defines you. I don't know exactly what I am, but he hates me, so I am. So.
Now question of Shas, Ani Rozra.
Of the?
Shas.
The Shas religion, the Shas movement, yes, it's a big party nowadays, 70 places in the parliament. Look, they have the problem that most of them are Oriental Jews. And Oriental Jews in Israel always felt oppressed. Why? Because Israel was created by European Jews. Israel was created by European Jews, and the standards are European. Everything, basically it's a European state. And all those who came from the Orient found themselves in an inferior position. Not that the Europeans oppressed them, but if you went to school, everything was according to European style. And therefore all these people who came from Morocco, from Algeria, from Tunis, from Iraq, from Yemen, all these people in Israel were de facto, culturally, their culture was looked down upon. Because the culture in Israel, the theater, the ballet, the philharmonic orchestra, everything was European. There is no philharmonic orchestra in Morocco or Iraq. They have a different culture. I'm not saying this is bad, but they have a different the cultural world. And the cultural world in Israel, the dominant one, was European. And therefore, all these people felt themselves oppressed. Although there was no explicit oppression. So So in the 50s, when they came, look, all these people were brought here by the Zionists. That means the Zionists would go to Morocco, or go to Algeria, or go to Iraq, and they would come to the Jews there, to the Jewish community, which lived there for thousands of years, at least 1,500 years. And they would say to them, look, there is a Jewish state, you have to come to the Jewish state, and they would pay for the tickets. They got paid for the ticket, they took them on the ship, they didn't have to pay anything. They came all the way to Palestine, and in Palestine and Israel, which was, let's say, 1950, 51, 52, I used to work on the ships, and I used to bring them from Tunis, from Morocco, from Algeria. And so first of all, they didn't have to pay for the ticket. Second, immediately they came, they were given a flat, free, a modern flat, free. They immediately had a place of work, because the Zionists and the European Zionists, wherever they conquered something from the Palestinians, they immediately built a city and immediately built a factory and gave the people who came from Morocco a flat and a place to work. And then the children went to school, and in school everything was European. And the idea was, we are creating here a new nation from all these different people. But from the 70s, 60s, 70s, people started to develop respect for different cultural identities. Right? And now you don't want to force the Algerian Jew or the Moroccan Jew or the Yemenite Jew to become a European Jew. You respect the cultural identity and the background from which he came. And in this new atmosphere of cultural identity, respect for cultural identity, which is a good thing, I think it's a good thing. Many of them felt very angry about the 50s and the 60s, and they said, no, we will have our own political parties. And they have this Rabbi Yosef with all this stuff here, which in 1950 or 60, everybody would think this is a joker. Never in Israel did you have anything like this. And now it's respectable, and the rabbis and the prime minister comes and says hello, and what do you want, etc. But you can't go back. In culture, you can't go back. I mean, if you stop believing in God, then later believing in God, it's no longer the same thing. No longer the same thing. So, I mean, you have a party, which is the second largest party now in Israel, but I don't think it will last many elections. It's both religious and culturally oriental. This is what it is. But I don't think it's a permanent phenomenon. On the other hand, the Labour Party and the Likud Party, the Nationalists and the Social Democrats are permanent features of this kind of society. And in the meantime, you can have a party like this, which wants to hold on to the values of their parents 50 years ago. But you know, they all go with their cell phones, with their mobile phones, and they all watch TV. So you can't go back. I mean, every traditional culture in the world has the same problems. You will always have a lot of people who want to go back to the past, and these people want to go back to the Oriental Jewish past.
Can you add about their clothes? Yes, last time you said
About?
clothes. This black and hat and so everything. And also Oriental Jew wear same things. And where come this clothes and
Many of the look, the clothing of the religious Orthodox Jews is the clothing which was popular in Poland 400 years ago. And because they came from these countries, from Poland or Russia, they still wear they still wear the clothing of the old. With the Oriental Jews, it's similar. You know, in America you have a sect called the Amish. And the Amish don't want to have anything to do with cars, with electricity. They live in rural colonies, and they want to separate themselves from. Now they also wear clothing which was common in America 200 years ago. So people who usually are looking back to the past often keep their clothing of this, which their grandparents were used to 200 years ago. So you have
why Oriental Jews wear from European Jews' clothes?
Look, if you came from Morocco, in Morocco people wore French clothing. In Morocco, very few people wore jalabiyas. Very few people wore jalabiyas. But if you go amongst the Yemenite Jews, you can find people who wear a jalabiyah, yes. Or Iraqi Jews, amongst Iraqi Jews. But if you go amongst Morocco, Egypt, who were more influenced by Europe, you find more European clothing. Yeah.
Can I ask one more question? Do you think many of Jewish people in Israel feel some risk of identity of Jewishness here now, in this moment?
Yes. I would say the 20% religious don't have problems. But the 80% who would like to be non-religious Jews have a problem. There is a new group emerging of young people. Look, Israel already exists 50 years. So suppose you were born in 1950, you are today 50. If you were born in 1960, you are today 40. So there is an always increasing number of people born in Israel whose parents were never religious. They were never persecuted. They were never victims of anything. And what is emerging here is Israeliness. I say in 30 or 40 years, Israeliness will be the dominant thing. But right now, what you have is the atheistic Jewishness is still the dominant thing. It is because all the schools say, no, there's no such thing as Israeliness. We are all Jews, even if we don't believe in God. And the same thing is said by the political leaders, because this is the Zionist ethic, right? But it is going down. The people talk about it a lot, but when you ask him, okay, so what makes you Jewish? He doesn't know. The religious person, if you ask a religious Jew what makes him Jewish, you say, yes, I eat kasher, I pray, these things, I keep to the 613 rule. So the religious don't have the problem. But if you come to a young kid in high school, he says, I don't know.
Shalom and other right-wing people feel such things. And
yes, they insist that they are Jewish. And they insist that there are enemies all around and they must all the time be defended. The more insecure you are in your identity, the more aggressive you become. Because you all the time have to defend yourself against enemies. And if the enemies don't exist, you have to invent them.
It means right-wing thinks that peace process is not, it's very bad things, yes,
Yes.
for their identity, yes. So they must block the peace process.
Yes.
In
Of
any
course.
means, yes.
Look, people who are more secure,
Yeah.
they don't mind marrying Arabs. But for the Likud, for the right wing, oh, this is a disaster. This is a major disaster. You are becoming an Arab, so what? So what? If they are decent people, why not? So if you're secure, you are less aggressive, and of course the ones who are insecure see you as a great danger. Because you are a traitor. How dare you mix with our enemies, etc. And if you say, no, they are not enemies, they are people like us, speak a different language, they have a different culture, but they are people like us. And if I like the boy or I like the girl, then why not? So they're always like this. People who are more relaxed, who don't feel threatened, who feel secure, are much less aggressive towards other people. And people who are insecure are much more aggressive because they all the time defend themselves against a hostile world, environment, people. But they also defend themselves and they also need this hostility in order to define themselves. So the right wing
Create hostility. Yeah?
Yes.
Because of this, Shalom had to go to the Harha bite.
Yes, of course. All this nonsense. Every society has a few religious men.
Okay, good. Okay, please speak. What happened in 1948? Why Palestinian people didn't fight against
I see. Okay, so in 1947, on the 29th of November, the United Nations decided to cut Palestine into two parts, half for the Jews and half for the Palestinians. The Palestinians were 1,100,000 people, and the Jews were 600,000 people. But the United Nations cut it 50-50 because of the Holocaust and so on, what happened in Europe. Now, the Palestinians were not happy about the partition, but they could not fight against the Israelis because they had no leadership and they had no army. Why didn't they have a leadership? The leadership of the Palestinians was religious leadership. It was a man called Hajj Amin al-Husseini, and also respectable families. But during the Second World War, the Palestinian leadership supported the Nazis. Not because the Nazis were against the Jews, but because the Nazis were against the British. So the Palestinians were fighting against the British, who were the rulers of Palestine. So they went with the Nazis who were also fighting the British. And the leader of the Palestinians, Hajj Amin al-Husseini, went to Berlin, and all the Second World War he lived in Berlin, and he broadcast in Arabic from Radio Berlin. So when the war was over, he could not come back to Palestine. So the Palestinians were left without a leadership, and they did not actually fight. Only in isolated places, but they had no army, and they had no political leadership. And so what happened was, the main force against Israel was not the Palestinians. The main force was the British, because Britain was the ruler of Palestine. And the United Nations said, stop, no more Britain in Palestine. Half Palestine to the Jews, half Palestine to the Arabs. Now the British did not like this. They wanted to remain in Palestine. So the idea was to create a war between the Arabs and the Jews, and then the United Nations would say, oh, this is very bad. And the British would say, okay, we will come back and make peace. This was the idea. Now, the Palestinians who lived in Palestine did not actually fight against the Israelis because they had no army and no leadership. So the British organized an army of all sorts of people which came from Syria. And the leader was an Iraqi officer called Kaukaji. And Kaukaji tried, he had about 5,000 soldiers. And he tried, but the army was not really a good army. And they had more problems with the Palestinians than it was possible. So the British waited until 15th of May 1948, because on the 15th of May 1948, the United Nations said, from 15th of May, 2 independent states in Palestine. The resolution was given on the 29th of November 47, but it said the independence will begin on the 15th of May. So until the 15th of May, the British tried to organize confrontation between Jews and Arabs. It did not work because the Palestinians had no army and were not organized. From the 15th of May, the British moved the Egyptian army, the Jordanian army, the Iraqi army into Palestine to fight against the Israelis. No Egyptian general could move 50 soldiers from Cairo to Alexandria without getting a permit from the British. The British ruled the whole area. In the Arab Legion and the Jordanian army, all the officers were British. And so the war began really after the 15th of May. Politically, it is a war of the British against the Jews in Palestine, using the Arabs as soldiers. But it did not work because the motivation of the Arab soldiers was not very high. The Egyptian soldiers were more interested in getting the British out of Egypt than in getting the Jews out of Palestine. And the same thing was true about the Iraqi army. 3 people of the Iraqi Communist Party, which was a big party, said to the Iraqi people in Iraq, the battle is in Iraq against the British, not in Palestine against the Jews. So the government, which was pro-British, hanged 3 leaders, Fahed, Hazem, and Sarem, in Baghdad. And they were hanged because they said this. And in the army of Iraq, which was sent into Palestine, many soldiers were found with the hands behind the back, and the officers killed them, shot them in the neck. Also, Jamal Abdel Nasser, who became the president of Egypt after the revolution of '52, He was an officer in Palestine in 1948. And he was in the south of Palestine, and in the Negev, and the Israeli army surrounded him. So while they were talking how to go back to Egypt, the Israeli officers were talking with Nasser. He was an officer. And you know, Nasser was interested only one thing. He asked the Israelis, how did you get rid of the British? Tell me, what is the secret? How do you get rid of the British? Because all these people were interested much more in getting the British out of Egypt, getting the British out of Iraq, etc., than in fighting the Israelis. Now, Jaffa was the biggest town in Palestine, about 200,000 people, okay? 1,100,000 Arabs in Palestine, and in Jaffa, 200,000 people, the biggest town. It is a very old town. It is older than the Bible, because in the Bible it is already mentioned as a big town. So it's before Jesus, before the Bible. And it was a big town, and the people here had no army, and Jaffa was surrounded. From the north we have Tel Aviv, from the east we have Rishon LeZion and Rehovot, from the south we have Hulon. So Jaffa was completely surrounded. The Jaffa people did not really fight against Tel Aviv. There was a little bit fighting, but nothing serious. So Ben Gurion did not know what to do with Jaffa, because it was 200,000 Palestinians almost inside Israel, and he did not want this. But Begin, the group of the nationalists, the right-wing nationalists, they wanted to show that they were also doing something. Okay, so they decided we will conquer Jaffa. They don't say conquer, they say liberate. What do you mean liberate? But this is the way they talk. They don't want to talk we conquered, they say we liberated. So they wanted to liberate Jaffa. So they dropped a few bombs into Jaffa by mortars. But there was 25th of April, 48, before Israel was declared independent. But it was not really a war. The Jaffa people did not have an army, did not have soldiers, so they became afraid, and they all went to the port where the boats are, and went on the boats and left to Gaza Strip, and they are refugees in Gaza 50 years, that's all. On April, 25 of April, that means 2 weeks or 3 weeks before independence, 15th of May, 48, the Etzel decided to attack Jaffa, not Ben Gurion, the Etzel, and they fired a few shells, and there was a panic in Jaffa, the biggest town, 200,000 people, and what they did, they went into the boats. Jaffa was a port, they went into the boats, and they fled to Gaza. And Jaffa was empty. And then they put all sorts of Jews from Hungary and from Bulgaria and from Romania in the houses of the Jaffa Arabs, where everything was there. The carpets, the furniture, everything was left. You went by boat, you took a few things on the back, went to the port, and Gaza, the port of Gaza is only 30, 40 miles south, and they now live in refugee camps there all the time. 50 years. That's it.
The last question. We saw some museums here.
Yes.
No mention about Palestinian people.
Sorry?
No mention about
Of course.
people. Why this?
Because the whole thing is seen entirely from a Jewish perspective. And Palestinians are just enemies, and you have to fight them. And all that you see is just what we did to save ourselves. That's all. Israel is always described as a victim. Always. The Palestinians are just another group of people who hate the Jews, that's all. This is the way it's described in history. They don't tell you, like let's say the museum we saw today about the right-wing Irgun, of the Etzel people. The museum is called the Museum for the Liberation of Jaffa. Liberation? What do you mean liberate? I mean, the people who lived in Jaffa lived here 2,000 years. You are an immigrant. You liberate a city from its original inhabitant. Why can't you say you conquer it? What's so difficult? It should have been called the Museum for the Conquest of Jaffa. But no. They cannot say this. They are only victims. They conquer, but they are the victims. So it's the Museum for the Liberation of Jaffa. And this tells you everything. The image is only we are victims and we come to liberate. And the others, even if they live in that place 2,000 years, are conquerors. We are only liberators. And that's it. This is the mentality.
My name is Oded Pilavsky. I was born in Jerusalem in 1932, and in 1949 I was a member of a group who settled in a new kibbutz near the Arab village Bir Asluj. It is 30 kilometers south of Beersheba, and we called the kibbutz then Mash'abim. And years later, it was changed to Mash'abei Sadeh on the name of Yitzhak Sadeh, which was one of the leaders of the Haganah and so forth. In 1951, at the spring, I was one of a group from my kibbutz, which joined to all groups of all the kibbutzim in the Negev. We came here to Tel Arad to a project which was called in Hebrew Hakatzir Hanatush Betel Arad. It means the harvest was abandoned, was left by someone in Tel Arad.
How many people came here with you?
Oh, there were some hundreds. And to operate, it was a big operation. Some 20, 30, maybe 50 combines. And they were a mobile workshop to make repairs, to repair things. And it was the camp for the people living in the tents. We live in the tents, and there was a big tent as a food hall for all of us. And there are lots of, we song in the evenings, and we have a good time. It was a good time for us, and we enjoyed it, and all about it. And very important people of the army came to visit us. Even once General Dayan landed with a piper in the fields to look at us when we all surrounded him, and we all felt one very happy group. We came here. It is a place with lots of fields around it, tens of thousands of dunam, I think. Collectively, all the kibbutzim together went to harvest the very high crops of barley, which was sown here some month before that by the Bedouins, the tribes of the Bedouins who lived here in the vicinity. After they sown the barley, the Israeli army pushed them out of the borders of the state of Israel to the west, to north, to the west bank of Jordan in those times. And the fields were left to harvest to us. We harvest what they sown. The atmosphere was very nice, very high. We felt like a collective group doing something very important to ourselves, because we could sell the barley, and for the country, for our nation, because it's abundant barley, abundant crops. And we do. I was a porter. My task was to take the sacks of 70 kilogram, 100 kilogram, 50 kilograms of the barley was harvested by the combines, and put it on lorries and concentrate it in one place, and then lift it and put it on other lorries, big lorries, who took it to the market. And one night I thought, what I am doing here? What is the point of all this? Who sow this? To whom it belongs? And who is reaping the crops? The Bedouins are very poor people. The barley is very important and central part of their food. Without that barley, in that year, of course, they suffered hunger, no doubt about it. Their families, their children, there as refugees in the west bank of Jordan. And we, the collectivists, the socialists, the organized kibbutzim of the Negev, joined together with the military command there on this part of the country. We came here to harvest the crops and to sell it. Well, I began to think, even now, I get excited by the fact, and I think that I began my political way to criticize the whole business of Zionism, the whole practice of Zionism, and how I am involved in it. And with grave mood, I came back to my kibbutz. I talked to other friends, to other people, but then I was young, and it took time. It took time to elaborate that in my mind, and to have some deep thoughts and come to conclusions about the society I live in, about the principles of the Zionist enterprise, and how it works, what its practice were. Well, that's my story. Lots of years passed from that moment. I was driven out of the kibbutz in 1953 for being too left.
Why Why you driven out?
Because I was too left for the Zionist movement. my ideology or my way of thinking then was influenced, of course, also by what happened here and by reading of books and thinking about it and talking about it with friends and family. And I was driven out with a small group which were outcasts because our criticism of the Zionism, we are not allowed to be to continue to be members of the kibbutz. Well, many years passed. I went through the Socialist Left Party and then the Communist Party, and then I was thrown out even from the Communist Party, of being too left for them also. Well, now I am a member of a small group called Matzpen, the socialist organization in Israel. I still hold my socialist views and, of course, my anti-Zionist group. That's my story.
That time you saw any Bedouin here?
No, when we came, all the Bedouins in the vicinity were driven out of here. I saw it for the first time after many years. I am in that place, in this place.
What do you think about this roadmap, so-called roadmap process?
Well, it's an American program. It does not say what would be the solution. They talk about Palestinian state, but no one speaks about the borders of the state of Palestine at when the negotiation is completed. Of course, the Palestinian side wants to get the Palestinian state on all the territories of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, which is 22% of Palestine, which called in Hebrew Eretz Israel before 48. It is obvious that the Israeli leadership wouldn't like to give it to the Palestinians. We will be in control of that state militarily, and we control on its borders. Sharon and its group don't want to recognize a real sovereign Palestinian state, the thing which the Palestinians are fighting for, and rightly fighting for,